Hello again, friends, and welcome to another guinea pig stream. Maybe I should start calling these guinea pig streams, as we are guinea pigs for the X-Plane 11.5 beta. Beta 2 apparently had some pretty major issues, and I had a couple of crashes with Beta 2 loading up. I've had no issues with this one. This is Beta 3, and Zibo has been updated as well, so Zibo is now on fix 11. So here we are, back at Bristol where we left off, and I thought I'd give it a test. It's a proper gin clear day here today, and so that is helping with the frame rates when it comes to weather. Let's just get those loaded up, because I think the weather just redrew. And you can see sat here on the ground, the GPU is not working very hard at all. The CPU is working a little bit harder with some objects, but not much. So I am actually going to leave that off until we get into flight. Scenery wise here at Bristol, I thought it looked quite good, and I think this is one of the tiles where I've got the UK and Ireland in zoom level 17 everywhere, but I think what I did was 2 kilometers around Bristol as a test. I did zoom level 18, and I think that's why the Ortho looks so good here. It's, in fairness, it's not really much use on the ground, because that doesn't look, I mean, you can see that's somebody's garden, but it doesn't look that great on the ground. Not great enough, I think, for the performance hit or the space hit potentially. But what it does do is it looks really good from a couple of 100 feet. So, and even on the airport you can see the lines in the grass, which is pretty cool. So that's what I've got. Rick asked yesterday what the PC specs were, so I've listed those, and hopefully they'll just stay there in future. And that's it for an intro, really. So if you are watching, it says I've got 3 viewers, so thanks very much for joining. Please say hi. Please sub to the channel, which I might move to something a little bit more professional in future. And please like the videos, and as always, feel free to ask questions and get them in early so that we can answer them in the cruise, because it's a relatively short sector. The OFP is giving us a flight time of 49 minutes. It might be a little bit longer depending on the arrival into Dublin. I know we haven't got any ATC coverage here. We did when I logged on, but they've gone. But we will have something for arrival into Dublin. And so, without further ado, our off blocks time is at 1700, and if we are using 09, it's not going to be a 15-minute taxi, because of course the runway is just down here. But this is one thing I really do like about X-Plane, that P3D is only just getting, there's a little bit of a undulation there that looks a bit unrealistic, but the sloped runways is really good. You can see that runway dropping off there, and then the terrain dropping down, and Ortho does that as well, and I think it does it pretty well. So, without further ado, hello John, just joined. I'm doing well, thank you very much, I hope you are too, and I think I saw that you joined, you subscribed relatively recently, either today or yesterday, so thanks for that, and nice to meet you. Please, as I say, feel free to ask anything. I don't have a type rating on this aeroplane, but I do have a real PPL, and a bit of extensive instructional experience, so I try and show people how to operate the aeroplane in a way that will, get you capable. Maybe not 100% correct and efficient, but certainly it will get you flying the aeroplane more capably than if you weren't watching, I hope. So, welcome. So, initial cockpit, let's get the overhead set up. Again, this is not the full cold and dark setup, but it will get you going. So the battery comes on and the emergency exit lights go on. The position lights are on steady because we're going to apply AC power. Pop that on, we've got all the lights turned up. And let's get the IRSs aligning, because they take a little bit of time and they need AC power to do it. Both the line lights on. You do the yaw damper a little bit later, but I like to do it now just so it's not forgotten. You can check the crossfeed, but I'm not fussed. I do sometimes, but I'm going to rattle through this stream unless anything interrupts me or you've got anything you want to ask. I'm going to leave the pumps off And this is effectively just a panel scan. What do I want it to look like? Power-wise, we're on AC power, which is ground power available. The generator buses are off, and there's no APU available, so that's what those lights are telling us. When those are on, those ones go out. When this is available, it lights up, as does this one. Cabin util IFE are on. You can leave the metering panel. That's a maintenance thing. Nobody really plays with that. Panel lights are up nice and bright because obviously it's daytime. We want to be able to see. Chimes and belts are off. Wipers are parked. Engine start switches are in auto. Igniters to right. Cabin diff pressure is here. And today, I know Bristol's about 500-600 feet. The pointer you can just about see, just slightly off there. If we were any higher than that, you'd expect to see the cabin altitude indicating the elevation that you're at. But because it's hidden by that one, we can't. Front door and the cargo doors are open, the hydraulic pumps can go on, and you see the spoiler, the lights go off there. Just going to test those, pop the window heats on, they go on and they stay on until we get to the gate at Dublin. Trim air can come on, and that's a typical setting. The packs can go to auto. You can leave the APU bleed off until after you've started it, but I'm not going to. I like to pop that on. And let's have a look at the OFP. I will try to zoom in so you can see it. First bit of information we need is what's our cruise. It's relatively low today for a short sector. So 240 is our cruise. And the landing altitude at Dublin is 242 feet. Pop that in, and like I say, it dumps everything on landing, so you don't have to worry about the landing altitude, but it does make it smoother on the descent or the pressurization planning. So important, very important to set the pressurization. It should be called life support because that's what it is. So that's the overhead done. Just going to check the throttle warning, which works. Down here on the radio panel, there is nothing really to set. The panel lights are on. We don't have a squawk, and if I'm looking, there is Gatwick approach, Heathrow approach, and it will just be Shannon Centre that we're talking to at the moment, so we're just on Unicom until then. MCP, nothing abnormal there. That is set odd because we haven't been cleared for our departure yet. We can put the airports on here. You can set these up how you like. RTO, the test light came on and went out. You can see we've got hydraulic pressure down here. And that is initially pretty much it. One thing I haven't done is start smart cars, so we won't be leaving until 1800 now, because I've only started that. So 1700 Zulu. That was foolish of me. So one thing we do need to do is set up our payload for the flight. Now this doesn't match because I need to tweak the weights and I still haven't got around to doing it. But it should, if you follow the weights that are given either on the forums or on Facebook, you can dig those out and you can pop that into your SimBrief profile. So we've got 139 packs. Something tells me it's going to be a sausage fest again. Yeah, I'm going to suggest that it should randomly allocate these when you pick packs. I don't want to pick between the two, I just want to put the numbers in. And loading wise, let's try 1 ton at the back. And let's try 427 in the front hold. Let's see if that gets us near 2021. Why don't we put 1200 in the back and put 227 up the front. That's brought the takeoff and the zero fuel a little bit further back between 20 and 21, which is aerodynamically ideal, I am reliably informed. So that's the payload done. Now the most important thing is fuel. We've got 3.8 tons on board. We're going to put 5573 as the request. I'm going to call the fuel truck. Check outside that Mr. Shellman is there, which is very apt. Please buy Shell. No affiliation. And that is our bit there done. So let's get the annoying music started. These are the essential items cracking on, and we can go into the FMC. So pop it on both, and you can use both quite effectively, just like you would in the real aeroplane. I'll probably, if I remember, I'll talk about that, and how init ref and legs should be pilot flying, pilot monitoring respectively. Init ref on takeoff switches to climb automatically as well. So, you know, I like to have during the flight, mostly progress over here, and whatever I want, legs, etc. on this side, easy to use, but also you've got data available here. And then for the final approach, init ref on this, and then pilot monitoring would have legs, and I just use it like that, just as you would in the real aeroplane. So you've got two sets of information handy and available. So, model 737-800W. I thought it was a WL, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's been updated to accurately reflect the livery that we've got. Most important thing here is the nav data is up to date. Engine rating matches, it's fixed in the mod, there's no changing that. And we can go into the position initialization. So we're at Echo Golf Golf Delta, which is Bristol. We're on stand 35, I think. Those boxes indicate required information, which we can get from GPS left on the next page. You can use the line select keys to select information, and it should then populate it here. So when I pick that, it saves typing it in, and I can use that scratch pad to copy and paste information as required. Anyway, that's all we have to do on that page, and now we can go into our route. So it's already populated Bristol because it knows that's our departure. Echo India Delta Whiskey is Dublin on Ryanair 7 Delta, and all of this information is available. That's what we want, is available. So yeah, you can see Manchester is our alternate. And I'm going to type this route in because we've got a little bit of time. You can export it and load it for the longer routes, but you can see that this one's pretty easy. So we're going from Bristol to Dublin, and we need to tell the aeroplane how we're going to get there. Now, we're not going to put that in to start with. We're just going to put the first fix, which is the Reckon VOR. You can see the IRSs have aligned, so the displays have come up, and you can see here Barcelona. Yeah, Southern Hemisphere, it's definitely not that one. Barcelona, it is not, and it will give you the closest one. So we'll pick that, and you would check, of course, if you were unsure. Quebec 63, and we get required information on this side again to the Strumble VOR. And then it's Mike 17, all lower airways. Mike 172 VATRY, which is the FIR boundary, and is also the start of the arrival, and that's it. I don't think we'll get a 1 Zulu. Not sure what runway's in use, but even if we were going in, that's a bit more direct. And at Dublin they like to use a point merge, which we'll talk about when we look at the charts when we get there. So activate that route because there's no one else to cross-check it, and then performance initialization. So all this is required information. Now thankfully the mod, you can populate your zero fuel weight because it won't match. Well, it doesn't match in my case. So zero fuel weight, we are 1 ton lighter, so I've got a copy of the printed OFP here. So I've just written that on there. That means our takeoff weight's going to be
Bristol traffic, Lufthansa 972 on downwind for ILS 09, Bristol traffic.
That'll be interesting, we might have a little watch of that. But I have a printed copy of this, I write it down, and it obviously means our estimated takeoff weight is going to be a ton lighter than that, but we're probably not going to use the 15 minutes of taxi fuel that we've got here, so we might be again slightly heavier. But if we use takeoff weight, it's not going to be this high, and so that'll give us an increased performance margin if we do use it. So it's a safer factor to take the higher weight. Our planned fuel isn't going to change though, so trip and taxi 2.2, and just to prove the point, if I type 2194 in there, you've got to put it in that format because it's in tons. It will round it for you, so you can either round it in your head or let it do it for you. 2662, it's safe to round that up, and then I like to round it up again, so I'm going to call about 2.8. And that's the point at which the FMC will tell us that we're using reserve fuel, which is the point at which we need to divert to Manchester. So rounding it up just gives us slightly early warning. If we were on approach and just about to touch down, that would be fine. If we weren't, we'd have to think about doing something about it. Cost index of 6 for Ryanair. Some airlines it varies. And you can see our trip is listed as 2.3 and I'm going for 2.4. Top of climb wind here is 221 and 2.5. And I did see that somebody commented that their OFP looked different. This is a Ryanair format, and actually I think it's really quite useful. So they use it with non-Ryanair flights as well. Once you get used to it, it's really good. So they do differ, and that's why this one looks like it is. So don't be surprised if you use Lido, Lido, British Airways, Easy, any of those. It will be different. So top of climb ISA here is +2. And it's just listed as P or M on the OFP, 3 digits rather than a dash or naught. But in here you only put the minus in for negative. And that is enough our performance there. So M1 wise, you need a calculator to...
Bristol traffic, Lufthansa 972 on final ILS 09, Lufthansa, Bristol traffic.
So if I put this in, I don't think this is modelled, and I didn't think it worked. I'm just going to put that in. Yeah, there's nothing there that calculates, so performance takeoff is not modelled yet, so you still need an external calculator, which I'm not going to bring up on the stream, but I have got on a second monitor along with everything else. So one thing we do need is the weather. So I'm going to cheat and use VATSIM. And I'm just going to read it out because I could. There, you can of course get it from the FMC. Why don't I show you that? So if we go into menu, ACARS, ATIS, Echo, Golf, Golf, Delta. I don't know what the source is, I don't know where it gets it from, but it's usually good enough that it works. A couple of seconds later, 1620, VATSIM gives me 1620, auto, 160 at 10, 160 at 10, 10k, no cloud, 10k, no cloud, 21, 8 and 1022. So they match, which is great. And hope, I don't know if they get them from the internet, but you certainly do need the weather. So 160 at 10 slightly favours 09. I think we landed yesterday with 160 at 10, which was interesting, so I think Bristol may very well prefer 27 regardless. But we'll use 09 because that's what other people will use based on that wind. So 1620 Zulu, just writing this down on the OFP, there is a section for it. 160 at 10, 10k, no cloud because it's auto rather than cav OK, 2108, QNH 1022. So let's set 1022 on both the altimeters, and they will automatically sync onto the FO side in the real aeroplane. They are independent. So with that, we will go for runway 09. 62146 is our estimated takeoff weight, which I don't think it will be. And my calculator is giving us 22k, no D rate. Okay, so it doesn't have the information here. So flap 5, 22k, 92.7, dry runway. It's going to be 09 full. So there's that traffic landing. Why don't we, seeing as we've got 10 minutes to go, just have a little watch of that. I suppose we could go to Tower View, but I'll tell you what, that'll be alright. Oh, hello, that went a bit wrong. Not sure what happened there. I think that's probably something to do with the ground clamping, and maybe the fact that it's such a if he's using FSX where it's flat, he will have touched down much higher than that, which is why it then dropped down onto the ground there. So A little bit sketchy, but that's obsolete sims for you. 1022's set. So, as we said, 22k. That's interesting. That shouldn't do that. That's very interesting. Wonder if that's a bug. I will ask my 737 driver friend if he's ever had that in the real aeroplane, and I might put that as a bug to Zibo, but offset with the climb. Strange. Maybe it's something to do with the weight. Don't know. Anyway, that is our takeoff computer. We need 1947 meters, and Bristol has got 2011. So actually, yeah, we couldn't take much more of a D rate. So flap 5. Put the wind in, which is 160. It's 10. Don't know what there's not much in the way of departures, the noise abatement here, so I'm just going to assume that is preferential for us, an acceleration of 1500, so that's more efficient. Trim 575, so let's set that now, lest we forget. About right. And the V speeds I've got 136, 136, 142, so quite the same. And we can put 42 on the MCP. Now, let's have a look at the charts. I don't think I need anything else initially. And what we can do is get the APU on, maybe a little early, but we're going to have a little bit of extra taxi fuel. And let me just get the chat up so I can see. Hello Dylan. I live in Ireland, in Dublin too. Right, well, we're off to Dublin, so hopefully you can tell me if it looks as realistic as I think it does. And hopefully you can rate the controllers as well, because they'll be local and they do a pretty good job on VATSIM. So, hello again Rick, good to see you. I'm sure it's lovely weather in Holland as well as it is here. So, we have a couple of airport charts, not many though. Parking stands. Takeoff minima, and we're going to want the departures. So we have filed for Brecon 1 Zulu. There are not a lot of departures out of Bristol. So this is not an RNAV departure, so we are going to tune the radio 8 based on DME to start with. So let's get the X-plane map up. And let's disable downwind ILSs. So you can see the stop altitude on this chart here is 6,000, so I'm going to put 6,100, we'll self-clear ourselves in a minute. Airport elevation here is 622, so 1622 is going to be minimum flat retraction. Oh, that was pretty close. And obviously you would get frequencies, and you can pre-tune those ready to select. Aerosoft X-Plane Q1. Aerosoft X-Plane 11 edition. What is that? I don't know. Are you just buying X-Plane from Aerosoft? You can buy it from Lamina. Don't buy it from Steam, because like you can get install issues with that. But X-Plane is a good sim, and it is getting a lot better with the new beta, which is making a big difference to frame rates, etc. So, just as we've got the APU on, onto the overhead, we can pop the pumps on, and that is the aeroplane getting ready to go. So let's start securing the aeroplane. We'll have a look at the departure. So let's...
Ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you're ready. Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
So, yeah, I can't see that it's a bad choice unless anybody else has got any comments to say otherwise. So 09, Brecon 1 Zulu. So let's get the chart up. Let's step through it because we've got a couple of minutes. So when you look here,
okay, all doors and hatches
Echo
are closed. Ready
is
to connect.
5 DME, which is there from AIRBORNE, from this end, and that's above 3,000 with a stop of 6, which is why it doesn't have the below on there. And then that's Brecon 30 inbound. English, that's slightly off. And then Oscar, that's 30 because there's only 26 letters here. 15 is the 15th letter of the alphabet, so that's O for Oscar. J for Juliet is the 10th, and so those points are in there correctly. So we need the Bristol NDB, which we should still have. 414.
So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
We're going to be 087 outbound initially. And that's going to be off 11015, which is tuned and identified. The initial runway heading is also 087. $6,000 because we've self-cleared, and then we're going to be 305 inbound to Brecon. And Brecon, as you can see here, is 11745, which we do still have tuned. And that essentially, guys, is the departure setup. Certainly from a navigate perspective, so we can have the ADF on one, the OR on the other, and we've got the ILS DME tuned there. Yeah, X-Plane is getting better, and I think the competition has hotted that up. And once you start getting free ortho and free overlays, you know, I have spent not a lot of money on this sim. 3737, it's pretty good if you ask me. So, that's our departure sorted. We have self-cleared because there's still nobody online. London is, but I don't think they cover here. No, I think West covers out here. So, we are ready to push. We've been told we're ready to go. I'm going to get rid of that one. And we are going to tell anybody around Bristol traffic, Ryanair 7 Delta, push and start, stand 35. So, nothing's set. We're going to execute that departure. And there's our pages ready to go. Pop the beacon on. Put the flight directors on. Master my side, because I'm pilot flying. And once the aeroplane is secure, we'll start our push. And it is quite important if you're flying online to make sure you connect first before you call it ready. Wow, 25% off. That is really good. Okay, so cabin secure. We should have the belts on. It's me chatting. Cabin secure. So, brake off. It's 1700.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
It's a short push, so we will get the engine started pretty sharpish. 2790 fuel on board. It's worth writing that down. Hi from Germany. Hello, Stefan. Thanks for joining. If you haven't already, please sub and feel welcome. I hope I can add some a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of minor experience with the mod, at least, to hopefully improve your simming experiences. We should have checked that there was no one behind us, but nobody shouted up. There's a little EasyJet over there. So let's get engine number 2 started. And of course we do need the packs off. And the ideal is to have the second engine started as you're applying the brake, and start engine number 1 as the tow's being disconnected. It just saves some fuel. Every little helps. What we landing on in Dublin? I don't know, Dylan. We're going to have to wait until we get a little bit closer to pick up the ATIS and to find out. So I think the wind was about 340. So might be favouring runway 10, but equally, depending on the strength,
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
So parking brake set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Yeah, I don't land on 10 at Dublin very often. I think I've done it once or twice, and I'm not sure if I've done it with ATC. So yeah, we'll just have to see when we get there. So we are disconnecting. Start engine number 1, and I've got that mapped to a key on my throttle, so I can just click that over whilst watching the engine instruments. We can disconnect the tow, and then we are looking for 25% N2, which is why I've got that pretty much in the centre of the screen. Obviously looking for oil pressure. You don't want to start an engine with no oil. Fuel goes on, and again I've got that mapped. You can see the fuel start because they can be a little bit fiddly to use.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Good, so that's disconnecting. This engine number 1 is just firing into life. Starter's just cut out. That looks like pretty good timing to me. Of course I would say that. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 3 stable engines. Just wait to see the pin. There is the pin. So to the after start before taxi flow. It is a flow. Some people go about this a really interesting way. I simply work down the panel this way. The pumps are on, down the panel, sort the gens out, APU off. Start switch is continuous, run up the panel, run down the panel, no anti-ice required, down again, pressurization set, backward C, set that up, and that's the overhead done. We've seen the pin, so we can go to flap 5. In reality you wouldn't check this, but in the sim I like to because I've had stuck controls once before. So there's the flaps, flight control check, full forward, full aft, full left, full right, full left rudder, full right rudder. Flight controls are checked. Trim is set, recalls checked before taxi checklist. So vital items on here, generators are on, no lights. APU is off, start switch is both continuous. Probe heat's on, anti-ice, no icing conditions, so it's not required. Air conditioning, cruise 240 is set. Bleeds, PAX auto, bleeds on, isolation valve auto. Flap 5, green light. Stab trim 575 set, 5.75 required. Flight controls checked, recalls checked. We are ready to taxi. So, there is nobody around. We are clear. And we are going to taxi effectively straight ahead onto Golf, all the way down to Golf X-ray, and we'll probably just do a runway takeoff and get going straight away because there won't be any traffic. There's still no ATC online. Bristol traffic, Ryanair 7 Delta, taxiing, hold, Golf X-ray, runway 09 via Golf. Nice and easy. So self-cleared, lights on, clear left, clear right, back to the front. Hold on the brakes, config checked, and because it's on a little bit of a slope, I'm just going to give a little bit more throttle than I would normally to make sure the aeroplane gets moving. In reality, I'm told you don't want to go over 35% N1, but sometimes in the sim you need a bit more than that to get going. And so that's it. It's a pretty short taxi, as you can see from the diagrams. You definitely can't take an intersection. We probably could if we had, if we didn't do a D rate. And this is just default scenery, so apart from the ortho, which I've done myself, and therefore the terrain that I think it remaps the terrain map, so this is ortho creating the hills, etc. But this scenery, the actual stuff along here, is all just default, which is really good. I've got some payware for Dublin, which I was a bit disappointed with because it's not updated. I thought it might be updated with the taxiways, but it wasn't. Anyway, it's a short taxi, so let's get the cabin secure. I have that mapped to the wing lights. Actually, let's not do a VNAV.
Okay, the cabin is secured. Have a good flight.
So I think there was an issue with that before. Let's try getting the aeroplane back on the centre line. You see you needed quite a lot of power to get up that hill. Still traffic, Ryanair 7 Delta, lining up, taking off, runway 09, or Brecon 1 X-ray departure, I think. It might have been Zulu, couldn't see it on the chart. No, it's Brecon 1 Zulu. Anyway, nobody's going to notice. So, Nothing seen, nothing heard. Lights on. Transponders on. Didn't see anyone on TCAS. We have self-cleared ourselves for takeoff, so we are going to be about 7 minutes early.
Approaching 09.
So let's get the airplane lined up. It's going to naturally come to a stop. Ideally you want to do a
On
rolling
runway
takeoff, but since we've stopped
09.
now anyway, that'll do us. Just getting my controller sorted out because we've got a little bit of time. So 40%, let the engines stabilise. We have self-cleared for takeoff, although we don't quite seem to be pointing in the right direction. We'll correct that out as we roll. So there's the aeroplane stabilised. Power, toga, time. To the rudder, lots of rudder input to keep the aeroplane on the centre line initially. A bit into wind aileron.
80 knots.
At that point, bring the forward pressure off the control column. Just look down the far end of the runway to keep straight. Small inputs.
V1 tape. Positive rate.
Gear up to the flight directors, which are now behaving themselves.
400.
LNAV. And there we are, onto the flight directors.
1000.
Command A. And we are just going to monitor the departure. Let's get that back in a moment after we've had a nice look at the scenery, as you can see. Still a bit stuttery for me, but really good scenery. Free, which is the most important bit. We've just got to spend a bit of time downloading it. So 6,000 we're going to reach pretty quickly. There's no speed limit on this turn, so let's bug up. Flap 1. Pass V2 plus 20 and positive trend vector. And as we pass flap 1, we select flap up. And self-climb us to 10,000 and out into vent. That should get rid of those restrictions. There's the upspeed. I think we'll keep that as we're in the turn. We're going to get to 5.4 DME. So that's actually so IBTS. A bit early. I think that's a little bit early. Anyway, water brake off, flaps up, no lights, gear up, and gear goes off. Start switches. Auto. We can release the crew. Pumps on. It's checked. And there is Bristol itself. I think I can see why they prefer 27 forward departures, because they're flying over the city. Just have a look outside. It's very often. It's quite handy. There's the next board of Bristol. It's pretty good, if I do say so myself. And this is just zoom level 17. So you can see the train station down here, which is really distinctive. There's the Bristol Channel now.
Altimeter setting.
Landmarks we have cleared to a flight level, so we should have set that. It's easier to do with ATC. And we can go to VNAV to let the airplane bug up to 250. Put VFR landmarks on, so I don't know if the Severn Bridge is going to be one of those. No, I think they're just still floating, which is a shame. The old Sim bridge and the new Sim bridge are distinctive. So things like Orbex are worth paying for that sort of stuff, but considering it's free. And, well, maybe if I turn the world objects up a bit, it would make a difference. Anyway, I've set cruise. Cruise is set once, set twice, and you can see climb there, set 3 times. Let's check 4 pumps. And ding that early before. And the aeroplane, you can see there is pressurising quite happily, so that's done in anticipation of the 10 check. And there's the aeroplane accelerating, lights off. Let the packs out, firm 4 pumps on. Aeroplane's pressurising steadily. Cruise complete. So before top of climb, Virtual Ryanair want the expected arrival QNH set. So the forecast, the actual at Dublin at 15:30, when this was generated, was 1020. So we'll set that. It shouldn't be too different on arrival. We've got Shannon, we've got a few other places, but I think for Dublin we do have, I'm not picking up Dublin's ATIS yet, so we'll listen to the ATIS when we get a bit closer. But here is us on the way to Brecon in Wales. There should be somebody out there. It's about 9 o'clock. I don't see them. Behind here. Right, it's nice when you see people online. How far out is that? 20 miles? Okay, so maybe we want to see them. But yeah, that's it. We are on our way in the climb. And there you go, you can see us. 6,000 we should have been at there, but again, there's nobody about, so I've just self-cleared us higher than that, as we would expect. Countryside of Wales. See, a little bit hilly. I start to see the valleys. Just ahead, you can see more creeping through there. The old coal mines are down here as well. Good paragliding down there. Some villages that formed in the valleys. South Wales. Again, like I say, all that is freezing. So, we're on our way to Brecon. Get the charts up for Dublin. Talk through those. I have a feeling that we're going to get one of the point merges until I've got the ATIS, which is 124525, so 24525.
No significant change. Advise on initial contact you have information X-ray. This is IMO information X-ray. At time 1630, expect ILS approach runway 28 in view. Transition level 60. Wind 100 degrees 49. Visibility 10 kilometers clouds. Few clouds at 3500 feet. Temperature 18. Dew point 12 QNH 1020. No significant change. Advise on initial contact you have information.
Good, so that's a nice bit of VATSIM ATIS there from the controller that's doing it. You don't get it unless somebody is controlling, but at least gives you the runway in use. So that helps us out. Another 10 check coming up in just a moment. And we're just turning over Brecon, so we're going to get the descent winds plumbed in. Think about our arrival, there's 2 that they could give us. Aeroplane is diff pressure 6.8 cabin. You can see the cabin altitude there, about 3,000 feet, climbing at 500 a minute. Because we're going to be quite low, the pressurization control will let the aeroplane pressurize to about 8. The PSI difference, and then the cabin will sit wherever that is, so it'll probably be about 4,000 or 5,000 feet. All the pumps are on, and our final cruise is set, and so that's that done. Look at that for some stocking Ortho. Ex-Europe for the overlays for the objects, so wind turbines and the like, but I think that's pretty good. I still get a bit stuttery, but it's vastly improved. Frame rate's pretty stable and GPU's being much better utilised. So, we know we're into VATRY, so what we can do is on this one, we can pick ILS 28, go via lap mode, that'll just put a hold in, and
1,000 to go.
just watch the airplane level off. Loading the charts up on my iPad first, and I will get them on the screen so you guys can see. So there's a couple of VATRY arrivals. One is quite direct, one is the point merge. Now I know that I prefer the point merge, so the direct is VATRY 1 X-ray, and the point merge is VATRY 1 Lima. So VATRY 1 Lima. So climb page has disappeared. Cruise there. Not sure if that was a bug as to why that has dropped out. Didn't touch it. Should have gone to cruise automatically. So let's plumb in VATRY 1 Lima. Execute that so that we get out some descent information, and then I'm going to plumb in the descent forecast info. So the winds there, if we were above 310, we'd put 310, 200, 100 wind on, so we're just going to pop those in. You can put them in any order, and you can put them in at the bottom, and the FMC figures it out. Isn't that clever? Transition level was 60, yes. The QNH was 1020. I'm going to bother with the ISO deviation. I don't think it's going to make any amount of difference today. And we'll put it into 235. 214, 23. See, very little of this is actually flying. It's mostly systems management. 210 to 21. Pop that in. That's the forecast done, so that should give us a more accurate top of descent. 17:29. We've got 9 minutes until top of descent. So let's have a look at our charts. So approach rise, we think we're going to get some arrivals. So let's go VATRY 1 Lima, and you can see that this is a point merger. And the idea is that you can merge from any point along here, being relatively high, go straight in, and you can correct distance out. It's like a DME arc, but it's an RNAV option. And it gets people slow enough and in the right place that they can simply sequence you in. So you clear one aeroplane in, then you can simply clear another in once you've got the required spacing. And it's actually really efficient. So I assume that's what they're going to want. You can already see that our initial top of descent is here, and then around that point merge we go with the hold at that point. So one thing we do need is the Dublin VOR 114.9, and that's important for our MSAs. Collinstown VOR is a reference for all of these, so 1.2, that's already set, that's fine, and we know it's going to be ILS 28, which is here, so we want 11135. Set there. 279, I happen to know that it is still 278 in the sim. All the arrival of the MSA, let's do 33. And that's that's an MSA of 2,400. And if we go any side of that within 25 nautical miles of the Dublin VOR, then we need to be MSA limits 4,000 in that sector. That's a pretty clear day, so we don't have to worry about that today. We can see everything. Oh, that's a shame with the cloud on the Ortho. Which airport is that? Pembury, okay. Along here on the left is Haverford West somewhere, which is on my list of places to go. I'd quite like to go to Haverford West out here in Wales. So we've got that set, and what I will do is, in reality, set it, but 098 for the missed approach is what I will set it to. You wouldn't do that in reality, you both set the ILS. So that's just to give a bit more situation awareness for a single crew go around, which is what we need worrying about. So we need to have a think about what we're going to land with. So at the moment our current gross weight is 60 tonnes. We are going to burn 1.9, so we're going to be 59.1 estimated landing. I happen to know at Dublin we get away with flat 30, so I've already popped that in. But we have got a lovely landing calculator here. It's going to be runway 28. Let's dry. The wind is 100 at 4. Temperature is 18 degrees. 88. It's 1020. I'm going to go flat 30. Leave those credits as they are, and 59.1. We might be a little bit heavier. See, there's Holly in red, and this is good because it graphically gives you a display of the distance that you need and the distance that's available. We can't land with all break 1. So, having a look at the charts for Dublin, some airports are really helpful. They put the high-speed taxiways down and they give you the distance to them. So let's put that one, and let's put the parking stands up because that's what we need. You can see that they are building a new runway in Dublin, so it's going to get busy. We want to try and make Sierra 5, and because there's nothing that tells us just how far away that is, you've got to sort of estimate it, and I reckon that's probably about 1,800 metres. So auto brake 3 is going to stop us at 1733, something like that. But we don't want to stop, we want to continue at about 45 knots off there. So I think auto brake 2 should do us, and if it doesn't, if we can't make the first one, we can make the second one a little bit slower. We can adjust our braking, but what we don't really want to do is be going down to the end of the runway and holding people up. So, flap 30, auto brake 2, 30141, and this is giving us 141 plus 5, 46 for VREF. I'm going to leave that there. I'm happy with all of those. We've got pen and paper, so when we speak to our controller, we can write stuff down, and that is essentially set up for the approach. We just have to have a look now at the minimums, and it's a standard ILS, and there's always arguments about the difference between height and altitude. We'll be flying the aeroplane in reference to altitude because it will be on QNH. Some people think that you can use the radio altimeter and set 200. You can't unless it actually says that, because the terrain may not be flat underneath the aeroplane, so it will give you a false reading. So decision altitude for us is going to be 402 feet. There's hardly any clouds, so we're not going to, we're well above the number there. You could even go to the localizer for just a localizer only approach, take the number up to 610 feet. But at 402 we will be 200 feet above the runway, but that is on a barrow, not radio. You see there, if we set radio, it says barrow, and that's what we use. So if you don't believe me, check it out. You can have a look at have a reader on QNH versus QFE and standard. So you should be able to work out those differences. Anyway, here is us over the Struggle VOR. With glorious countryside, that's a shame, isn't it? That's a real shame. It's terrible. So I might have to try and do that. See where the edge of the tyre is. Well, that's good. But you can also see it's in level 17 how amazing this is. Pressing good. I think that's Fishguard. You look at the harbour. It's really good. So I'll shut up about the Ortho now. So there's the aeroplane slowing down for anticipating top of descent, so I'm just going to match the hardware throttles to that. People have mentioned before as well, oh, I put the heading in and it doesn't match. That I think is Dublin asking me to contact. Channel Centre, good afternoon, Ryanair 7 Delta, flight level 240, PEMOB, request descent.
7 Delta, Shannon Control, good evening, set your squawk 6633.
Squawk 66, the tree, Ryanair 7 Delta. That wasn't me taking the piss.
Channel Control, KLM 412 Heavy would like to request flight level 320.
KLM 412, no problem, flying flight level 320.
So Dublin approach is on.
Flight level 320, KLM 412.
So I'm going to tune that up.
97 Delta, you are identified, VATRY 1 Lima arrival, landing runway 28, descent, flight level 150.
So VATRY 1 Lima, landing 28 Dublin, descent flight level 150, Ryanair 7 Delta. So we have missed our top of descent, only just.
GPS 210, request stepway for 3 minutes.
But you'll see that the aeroplane has not
GPS 210, that's
now
no
picked
problem,
that because we
before
missed it. So I'm going to press out into
GPS
vent,
210, thank you.
and the aeroplane will start to descend. And I've got a key mapped to my joystick. I use the trigger for out into vent because I can't quite get it easily. And so that's how you can start that descent. And the aeroplane should now pitch. It'll do a really dirty dive to get back on path because it's in VNAV path. It's going to prioritise path over speed, which is fine because we know we've got a level segment. Even if we get cleared straight in, you lose some of the energy. So one thing I was saying, what was I saying? It's about heading and track. So we've got wind coming from the left, it's blowing us to the right. Our heading at the moment is approximately 331, 332, but our track is 335. If ATC told us to fly 335, we would select 335, we would press heading select, we would then fly a heading of 335, and we'd be flying about 338, something like that, a track of 338. But yeah, as you're told, track up is much more useful than heading up. So, order brakes set, recalls checked, approach, everything's set. 11135 is set on one, available on the second. 279 we know it's 278 in the sim, which is set. AXEV is our descent glide slope checkpoint at 2,500, minimum 402. The missed approach is straight ahead to Gannet to 3,000, then turn right to Dublin, to 5,000. Probably radar vectored. And that is our approach. So this is what we're going to fly. You can see it's coming into VATRY, and I did say 1 Lima. Just gives them a bit better control over what's going on. So I really need the information from here. Now legs is probably going to be the most useful. You have to remember that we've got to hold in, so we can hold it at that moment if we need to. What we can do is pop in our fix rings. So we know it's runway 28. It's VMC, so it's going to be 4 miles to configure gear down flat 15. 10 for info. Might as well put 30 just because that's where we should be, roughly about 10,000 feet. But it doesn't quite work with this one, I don't think. And I've got 2 sets of information here. This is what I need for the approach, and this is over here what I need if I'm given direct to any waypoints. So Dylan, if you are still watching, you've got 28 as the runway that you want. A shame about that redraw, and that's where we're going. So like I said, Dublin approach 1221.1 is on, and tower is 186. So you would normally get these from the chart.
China 7 Delta, proceed direct to Latmo.
Direct Latmo runners, Delta. So that's a big old shortcut. I'm going to leave the hold in, so we line select Latmo, bring it to the top,
American
execute,
141 channel.
and off we go. So frequencies would normally be on the charts, as you can see here, ATIS, and then for the approach you would get ATIS approach, tower 1186, which cunningly it is, but it doesn't always work that way, and ground 1218, and you can pre-tune these ready to go. So I am assuming that we're going to get given to approach next, 121.1, so we can just flip-flop it when we need to.
TBS 210, thanks, welcome back.
So people moan about Direct 2, and that seems to be working alright, if you ask me. We match heading to the heading, our current heading with the heading button, just because in case we're given vectors, it's a lot easier to do that rather than faff around. It's less far for it to go. And it's also useful if you need to divert off track for any reason, you can do it using heading select. So we are going to be nowhere near that MSA, so I'm going to set this to the missed approach, which is 098. Which we may or may not be given anyway. So we've got the Dublin VOR.
China 7 Delta, continue descent to flight level 80.
1,000 to
Continue
go.
descent flight level 80, minus 7 Delta. So keep going, and there should be no levelling out of any of these segments now because we've got rid of that.
American
Level
723, overhead Resno, radar service is terminated. Continue Unicom 122.8. Good evening.
Roger, Resno,
And it's a pretty simple arrival into Dublin from here. So unless anyone's got any questions, I know I rattled through a lot of that pretty quickly, and there was a bit of a change at the end, but that's pretty much it. Just a case of getting a decent landing out of it now, which, seen as my last one was not fantastic, and the one before was absolutely terrible. I'm not holding my breath. So, Smart Cars is still running. Stream's still running enough, because I've been working from home. I've got an extra monitor from work, which I'm using for the stream and everything, which is a lot better. I got a little 10-inch one to sit on my desk because it was small and useful, and it is useful, but actually having a full-size monitor is quite good. So I might think about getting one full-time, but I probably don't have to worry about that for a few months. Everything going the way it is.
Shannon Control Logan at the 917, sorry about the delay, right now flight level 340, mark 0.823.
United 917, Channel Control, good evening. Confirm your squawk 7657.
So, progress-wise, we think 1748.
Score 5657, United 917.
Let's get our punters set
United
down.
917, thank you. You are identified.
Thank you, and press offline for 30 minutes, please.
And we're actually a little bit slow,
917, sorry, just say again.
so I'm just going to increase throttle because
Request away from keyboard,
throttle
away from
is
cockpit for a few minutes, please.
ARM. We can override it.
917, how long would that be, sir?
Something around 10 minutes, please.
917, okay, that's no problem. Report when back.
Roger, thank you, and 911.
There you go, and that's just to get us just back on profile. If we get too slow, the aeroplane will throttle up to its full cruise power setting.
7 Delta, continue descent, flight level 70 and contact approach on 121.1. Good evening.
Continue descent, flight level 70, approach 121.1. Thanks very much for the service. Take care, Ron SM Delta. So 1186 we can tune up whilst I do. So I've done the flip flop. I'm just putting 1186 in. That's one less thing to worry about. Double approach. Good evening, Ryanair 7 Delta. Passing flight level 110. Descending flight level 70. VATRY 1 Lima direct LATMO 738 information X-ray.
Ryanair 7 Delta, Dublin, good evening. I identified MAXIV is available if you'd like it.
We're happy as we are, actually. Thanks very much, Ryanair 7 Delta.
Ryanair 7 Delta, no problem. I'll further descent for you in about 10 miles.
Roger, thanks, Ryanair 7 Delta. So we could go direct MAXIV. The only thing I worry about with that is it may throw the profile off. And it's not the end of the world, it just takes us a little bit further out. There's the aeroplane slowing. So let's get all the forward facing lights on. Logo as well at night. Cabin is secure. Recalls checked. And I'll be ignoring the chat and turning my phone to silent, seeing as we're below 10,000 feet. The aeroplane has slowed quite nicely there, so yeah, I think maybe we'd be able to. I'm going to leave the hold in. He clearly doesn't think it's very busy. We could have had a little shortcut there. Maybe I should have. But again, when there's just one of you, if there's two of you, that's really easy. You can select that. I mean, yeah, I can do it as well, but would it not throw the profile off? Yes, it probably would. Would it be worth the hassle? How much time is it going to save? You know, all those things you've got to consider, and I'm happy as I am. So, as soon as we're cleared on the approach, we've just got to remember to get rid of that hold. Although, using VRYR or approach to capture the localizer shouldn't make that an issue. So, we told him information X-ray, we didn't get told anything otherwise. So, hopefully, that QNH is still valid. So one thing he did say though was that we were probably going to get delayed for descent. So if we do end up getting held and not giving a continuous descent, I'm going to start bringing the speed back to no more 220, just to make it easier to bleed off. So
1,000 to go.
Thinking about energy management, because there is no level segment on our arrival here. VNAV has planned a nice idle path descent to max 7.2.5, working all the way back from here.
Ryanair 7 Delta, descent to altitude 3,000 feet, QNH 1020.
Descent altitude 3,000 feet, QNH 1020, Ryanair 7 Delta. And we have done that. So we've been cleared to an altitude, we've been given the QNH, this is the point at which we set it, so it doesn't get forgotten. Approach can come on and be armed. Now variable winds could cause us something of a problem. We may need to put downwind ILSs on with winds at, is it 100? That is a tailwind. So I'm going to enable, whoa, what's going on here? So without it we wouldn't be able to pick up the ILS there, so we've got to put the downwind ILSs on, which is just a weird and explained thing. So we're back on profile. We are going to need to decel, but I'm just adding a little bit of power so that the airplane doesn't throttle up all the way to 240. We could speed into vent. So India Delta Whiskey, is that? Yes it is, 278. I tuned, identified. People have said they've been having problems with the ILS not identifying, having to recycle. I haven't found that, so maybe they've got add-ons that do something a bit odd. Of course that's an easy workaround, and sometimes I do it if it's if we are using a downwind ILS, this one, and then this one comes along, that can cause issues, but today we should be able to fly it manually. So just pick the localizer up, there we go, So there's our speed, our decel. I'm going to use a bit of speed brake to get that coming back. You can see how slippery the aeroplane is. Need to be outrunning that glide slope. I want to intercept it from below. So we're still on profile. And I'm going to go flap 1 early. So that we can get to level change. We are pretty high. And we really need that to come back to 3 if we can get it. Now if we need to go to flap 5 with full speed brake, we can. That will help bring the aeroplane down. Well, Dublin don't like us though, so we could be a little bit high here, especially with the tailwind and all my talk of energy management has all got to pop. So it's just creeping back. We really don't want to be intercepting from above. I suppose we could have asked for a delay vector, but it's just about coming back. It's a bit of a struggle. So that's us on a glide. There's the localizer. Haven't been cleared for the approach.
Thousand to go.
So we're just going to let the airplane go into the hold. 107 Delta, are we clear for the approach runway 28?
7 Delta, apology day from your cleared ILS 28, port established.
Cleared ILS 28, we'll cover 107 Delta. So we need to get the aeroplane coming down because we need to get the localizer before we descend. And that has just about captured. So flap 5, that was a bit of a mess. And speed brake is bringing us back down and round. The aeroplane has performed admirably, although that intercept is somewhat interesting. We have outhold. Glide slope capture. Shouldn't really descend outside the localizer. Wow, this is really struggling. So I think it's a fun approach. I mean, I did have half a beer earlier, but it's not bad. Come on, capture. 107 Delta established. ILS 28, 7 miles.
7 Delta, thank you. Contact tower 118.6 for that.
Tower 186, thanks. Have a great day. Stay safe,
2500.
107 Delta.
You do, yeah.
Sent to Lords.
Wow, that was sketchy. Don't copy that.
Clear to Lords as filed PESIS 5 Alpha departure rate 28. Block 6652 with airport frequency, showing control of 131.150.
This is really struggling. Look at
Specified Alpha, runway
Look at
28,
that.
Coke 6652
Oh,
and
dear.
Airborne 13150, run S75 Mach Tango.
Square 75 Mike Tango, reback correct advise for push pressure.
Okay.
Dublin Tower, good afternoon. Ryanair 7 Delta. Established ILS 28, 5 miles.
7 Delta, Chapter in the 110V, 04 knots, runway 28, clear to land.
Clear land 28, Ryanair 7 Delta. Perfect. So, not bad view. A little bit stuttery. How's the old frame rate doing? 30s is fine. Dublin's a bit hard on the old scenery. Plus I've got the extra VFR things. So 4 miles, gear down. Flap 15, match speed. Speed brake armed, water brake 2, flaps set, green light, gear down 3 green, start switch is continuous, cabin secure, recalls checked. And we are cleared to land, just holding on the landing flap. So we need to be stable by 500. You can start configuring at 1000 if you want.
1,000.
So let's get the auto throttle off.
Approaching 28.
Seems like we're a little bit offset. So for the latter stages of the approach, aiming point with pitch, speed with power. Don't forget the lag on the power. Did the wind just drop off completely?
500. 400. 300.
Halfway up the windscreen. Watch that rate of descent. Anything over 1,000 unless it's pre-briefed as a go around. Of course it's difficult to keep an eye on that when you're doing both the flying
Minimums.
continue.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Come on, down we come that aeroplane. Bit of a float. That wasn't bad, I'll take that. Didn't seem like there was much wind on the approach, but there is. So let's go manual braking.
80 knots.
There we go, down to about 45 knots. Don't think ground's online. And that's it, welcome to Dublin.
Welcome to Dublin. You can take Kate right onto Sierra left, Whiskey 1, hold short runway 1634.
So vacate right, Sierra, Whiskey 1, hold short 16, right there, 7 Delta.
Ryanair 198 Delta, you can enter runway 16, hold short runway 28.
Enter runway 16 and hold short at
So 40-minute flight time. Do you think it's one by one? So we can stop the stopwatch if we want to do single engine taxi.
Hello, Shamrock 18 Delta on stand 418 with E8 is on board, Airbus A320 request cancel on the Heathrow.
Shamrock 18 Delta, you're clear to Heathrow at filed deck in 1 Alpha departure, 928, Fox 6660, and frequency 1 airborne, it's running control 131.150.
Clear to London Heathrow, deck 1 Alpha Fox 286660 and 1311501 airborne, Shamrock 18 Delta.
Shamrock 18 Delta.
So a bit warm on the brakes. So Whiskey 1 is the second left, and then we need to hold short 16. So the Zibo tablet says that landing was great. Yeah, felt alright, but pretty good. Bit floaty. Like to a bit down a bit quicker.
Ryanair 198 Delta.
So minus 227 feet per minute. But
Clear take off from
I'd say it was pretty good.
Ryanair 198 Delta, that's good, bye.
So second left, and this is what I was hoping for, was that the taxiways would be renamed, because they were renamed a couple of months ago. Wow, it's looking busy here. But the buildings are a lot better than default, and the marshals there are good. but it's just a shame. Shame about the taxiways. So I don't know if it's worth getting. I don't know if World Jetways does where there are no jetways, because obviously Ryanair are not particularly interested in jetways. So if they do, that might be worth something worth getting if the default was, but then you lose all the accurate buildings. So, hey ho. So runway ahead, we are not cleared to cross. There's sort of like bits of default and then bits of this that I'd like to mix and merge together, but I don't think that's possible. So no ground on. It's not going to clear us. Right, SF Delta holding short 1634.
Right, so Delta cross, 1634, taxi Hotel 1, link 4, standard choice, white.
Taxi, cross 1634, taxi Hotel 1, link 4, standard by choice. Thanks very much for the service, run SF Delta.
Approaching 3, 4.
Right,
So clear, clear, and again, really good, really professional controllers. Always a pleasure. There's 3 minutes. Oh, well, I haven't started the APU, so we can't get single engine taxi, not that it's going to matter. So Hotel 1, link 4, and we'll just go down to the end along here somewhere, I think. Those two look like they're mating. Bit of stand fisticuffs. This one looks, I don't know where this one looks like it is. The middle of a terminal, so somebody's scenery doesn't quite match up. Same with this big old paddy over here. So 10 knot speed limit on the ramp, or the apron, depending on your preference. Oh good, he's gone. So we'll get those lights off, don't need the turn-offs. Baggage carts everywhere, which is pretty good actually. I mean, they crash into you, but it's good enough. So let's take stand 125. Brake check. They work down to 6 knots. Taxi lights off, coming onto stand. Fisticuffs on the stand next door. Pretty useful. I'll do. So there we are on stand. Two blues, one red. Engine's dead. 55 minutes after we pushed. Welcome to Dublin, ladies and gents. Where the local time is the same as when you left. So less than 20% we need to see. We've got
Dublin Tower with 17 established on the ILS 128, 10 miles final.
EPU's off.
William there, 187 Dublin Tower, hello. Civic winds cam, running 28 clear to land.
Clear to land, 28 with 1.
The door open and reset 2000 on the squawk. That is us. Shame those two are there, looks a bit silly. But lots of Ryanair aircraft on the stand. And maybe I could have gone a bit further forward. Who knows? Dublin, looking nice. And anyway, that's us. So, as always, thanks very much for joining me. thanks to the people that I haven't seen before. Thanks for joining. If you haven't subbed, please subscribe, and please come along with some questions. I can do my best to answer them as best I can. You can see that my flying ability is sketchy at best from that approach, which we managed to save from the jaws of defeat. Although it was going quite well, we managed to wrestle defeat from the jaws of victory and then regain our composure and go back to a good landing again. But thanks for joining, and hopefully I'm going to do a bit more flying tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you then.
On Dublin ground. Dublin ground is now online, so you can monitor him on 121.8.
So thanks very much, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye for now.